A new world order.
New world order.
New world order.
The New World Order. It's this theory that a hidden network of powerful elites is secretly working to build a single totalitarian world government.
There is a small group of people, a small cabal,
Freemasons, Satanists that run this.
secretly controls everything that is happening in the world.
And it's always they. They control the world, they silence JFK, they put something in your food, they. But who is they? Who is they actually? Who are the supposed puppet masters of our world?
She was undermined by, quotes, the deep state.
Who do you think really runs the world?
Well, apparently there's many answers to that question. The Illuminati, Skull and Bones, Bilderbergers, squirrels.
You f*** the squirrels, Morty!
But the one that shows up the most, at least in my feed, is the Bohemian Grove, or more accurately, the Bohemian Club, a secretive society of ultra-wealthy, powerful men who gather each summer in a remote redwood forest of California. There, they reportedly worship an owl god, perform strange rituals, and some say shape the future of our world.
So they're in with these bankers and former presidents. They're all worshiping an owl god.
Are these Bohemians really a cabal of devil-worshipping elites doing Satan's work in the redwoods of California? Are they the puppet masters behind major world events? Are they the they everyone's talking about?
Let's find out.
The Bohemian Grove. It's the name given to a restricted 2,700-acre campground in California, where every July, members of the Bohemian Club host a 2-week retreat for some of the most powerful men in the world. It's often called the most exclusive men's-only club on Earth. Basically, it's this absolutely stunning, secluded place in a forest near Monterey, California, that every year becomes a private summer camp for some of the most influential people in the world. Past attendees include Presidents Nixon and Reagan, Henry Kissinger, Clint Eastwood, even Mark Twain. And while the club's defenders say it's nothing more than a summer retreat meant to help these powerful individuals unwind and shed the stresses of the world, the mix of secrecy, symbolism, and power these members have has given rise to conspiracy theories that the Grove is more than just a fun getaway. Many believe it's where the so-called power elite meet to set the course of world events. There's even an episode of The House of Cards that nods to it.
Some of the most powerful men in the world are gathered in this clearing. Members of one of our country's most exclusive clubs. They carve up the world like a Sunday roast. This is where the real power is.
Now, to be fair, the Bohemian Club didn't start out as this shadowy gathering of the world elite. It was founded back in 1872 by a group of journalists who wanted to create a space for artists and writers to connect. Men who embraced art, creativity, and unconventional thinking. The word Bohemian itself was meant to reflect a free-spirited artistic vibe. The annual summer retreat began a few years later when one of the founding members announced he was moving to New York City. The club threw him a send-off party in the Redwoods, which turned into an annual tradition. However, over time, the guest list changed. Fewer writers and more presidents, industrialists, and bankers.
The original 5 members, there were like 3 journalists, there was a merchant, and there was a vintner. They formed an exclusive men's club, but it became fashionable. And as it became fashionable, more wealthy people wanted to become part of it.
That's when things started to shift from a quirky arts festival in the woods to what many now see as a closed-door summit for the global elite. At the center of controversy, and what many point to as satanic, is a ritual performed at the beginning of the July encampment called the Cremation of Care. It's an elaborate performance held in front of a 40-foot stone owl. Robed figures gather before the shrine where they burn an effigy in what looks to outsiders like some kind of eerie sacrifice. According to the Bohemian Club, it's just symbolic, a theatrical ritual meant to cast off worldly cares before the retreat begins. The effigy, known as the Doll of Care, represents stress and burden these powerful men carry. Burning of it is meant to cleanse the mind, leave behind the outside world, and immerse fully into 2 weeks of relaxation, bonding, and ritual escapism.
They burn an owl. It's a 40-foot stone owl. And they don't actually burn the owl. They burn a cremation of care, which is just a bunch of rags soaked in gasoline. They say it means that they have the cares of the world on their shoulders. And therefore, to let their hair down, have a vacation, they have to cremate Carrie.
But others see something far darker. Some conspiracy theorists claim the stone owl represents Moloch, an ancient Canaanite deity often associated with child sacrifice. They believe the effigy being burned isn't symbolic, but it is in fact a real human being.
This is a 40-foot stone owl called Moloch, and these people that are doing the ceremony dress up in robes. They bring in a child and they set it afire.
But that theory doesn't really hold up. You see, in ancient texts, Moloch is described as a humanoid figure with a bull's head, often with outstretched hands ready to accept offerings. Nothing about that really resembles the owl at Bohemian Grove. The connection seems to trace back to a few early claims, particularly by Mr. Jones, and it's repeated so often that it's now part of internet lore. But there's no real historical evidence linking the Bohemian Grove owl to Moloch. In fact, even the members of the Grove don't refer to the owl as some sort of deity. If you read the journalistic exposés of people who infiltrated the Grove ritual, no one ever refers to Moloch or to any kind of spiritual worship. It's just the owl, a long-standing symbol of the club. Owls, in fact, and owl symbols can be found everywhere at the Bohemian Grove.
We saw an owl driving in here too on that little lodge.
There's a lot of owls around here too. There's owls everywhere.
The Bohemian Club's logo features an owl, which traditionally symbolizes wisdom, which is rooted in both Roman and Greek mythology. Some speculate that it's linked to the Bavarian Illuminati, a secret society founded in 18th century Germany that also used an owl as its symbol. But again, there's no evidence of a direct connection between the Illuminati and the Bohemian Grove. Maybe some early Bohemian Club members were inspired by Illuminati imagery, but maybe not. It's speculation at best. And then there's the claim that the cremation of care is a satanic Luciferian ritual. Now, I've read a lot about occult traditions, paganism, and Satanism. And yes, on the surface, the ceremony looks a bit dark. You've got robes, fire, chanting, symbols. It is by all means very ritualistic. It feels like something out of a horror movie. In reality, it's more amateur theater than a real satanic occult ceremony. I genuinely doubt most members believe there's anything spiritual about it. For most, it's probably just a fun, exclusive tradition. And those who do take it seriously, it's likely not out of some spiritual devotion to dark forces, but because the ritual affirms their membership in something powerful, secret, and unique. The bottom line is, yes, it looks creepy and the symbols are strange, but it's a long leap from that to devil worship and human sacrifice. Now, aside from the occult imagery and secret rituals, there's another layer of controversy that surrounds the Bohemian Grove, and it's much darker in my opinion. It has to do with certain disturbing proclivities of the members inside Bohemian Grove. This controversy blew up recently, actually, after this American boxer made a series of extremely serious allegations about what happens at the Bohemian Grove. The claims were disturbing, especially because they involved acts against children.
Bro, they took me to the woods. Bro, they held me down and they made me watch little kids get.
And that's what initially drew me to this story. I care deeply about exposing such crimes, and I think as a society we should focus on them more seriously. But here's the thing, this particular boxer turned out to be a complete charlatan. He made up the Grove allegations to stir attention ahead of a boxing match, which is, if you care about these issues, very reckless, dishonest, and damaging. What ended up happening is that the whole Bohemian Grove discourse got polluted. Suddenly, hundreds of content creators jumped in, pumping out wild, unsubstantiated claims, most of which made it harder to differentiate fiction from reality. Instead of credible reporting, I found hours of clickbait nonsense. So I decided to dig into sources that were actually credible. I focused on journalists who had really investigated the Grove. People like Philip Weiss, who managed to infiltrate the camp and publish a detailed expose afterwards. And what he and others found wasn't evidence of some international ring or a satanic cult. There was no overt criminal activity like the kind being pushed in those conspiracy videos. That said, some questionable behavior has been reported, just of a very different kind. Multiple sources, including locals from the nearby town of Monterio, have mentioned the culture of heavy substance use and the hiring of ladies of the night during the retreat. There's also a notable undertone of homosexuality at the retreat, with numerous drag shows being performed there, likely because women aren't allowed into the grove.
Bohemian Grove that I attend one time to time, it is the most goddamn thing you will ever imagine.
And then there's the drinking. A lot of drinking. According to people who've attended, it's almost a rule. You're supposed to be completely hammered the entire time. So the question is that all Bohemian Grove is? Is it just a debaucherous two-week playground where the ultra-rich get entrenched in alcohol and other substances, all while doing some morally questionable activities? Well, yes and no. You see, I don't think Bohemian Grove is some sort of dangerous eyes-wide-shut party with secret sacrifices, murders, or black magic. Plenty of journalists, investigators, YouTubers have infiltrated the Grove over the years, even during the rituals. The worst thing that's happened to them is being arrested or sued. No one disappeared, no one's been silenced. But there is, however, something that I think is very nefarious and quite real about the Bohemian Grove. And it's often being overshadowed by the more cinematic, blood-soaked conspiracy narratives that are more sensational but probably not true. Something that doesn't involve satanic rituals, but might be even more important. The unofficial motto of Bohemian Grove, and probably its most famous rule, is "Weaving spiders come not here." That phrase is inscribed at the entrance to the Grove and is meant to signal something simple. Leave the business at the door. No deal-making, no politics. Just camaraderie, art, and recreation. But based on everything I've read and researched, this so-called golden rule is broken constantly and often very severely. Allegedly, the Grove has a long history of being the quiet backdrop to major political and business maneuverings. In 1967, for example, Ronald Reagan reportedly met privately with Richard Nixon inside the Grove, where they struck a deal. Reagan would step aside and let Nixon pursue the Republican presidential nomination uncontested. A year later, Nixon won the presidency, making one of the biggest political comebacks in American history. Many believe the Bohemian blessing played a key role in that win. And it's not just politics. In 1930, physicist Ernest Lawrence, who would go on to develop the atomic bomb, reportedly secured key funding connections at the Grove for his massive cyclotron project. Decades later, the idea for the Strategic Defense Initiative, a missile defense system designed to shoot down Soviet nukes, was allegedly first proposed during one of the Grove's summer retreats. I covered this conspiracy in a previous video of mine if you want to check it out. But anyway, this is where my real concern about the Bohemian Grove starts to come into focus. It's not the owl statue, it's not the robes, it's not the bonfires and chants. The real issue is this. The Bohemian Grove is a space where allegedly government officials and judges, people who are elected to serve the public interest, meet privately with powerful figures from the world of business and finance who serve private interests. We're talking about judges, senators, politicians in general who hold immense public power and who are discussing matters that could impact national policy, global markets, or even war. And they're doing it outside of the public eye in a redwood forest with zero oversight. Now let's be clear, I'm not saying there's definitive proof of corruption inside the Bohemian Grove. I don't have any smoking gun. But the environment itself, the secrecy, the exclusivity, the absence of public scrutiny, creates a breeding ground for unethical behavior. At the very least, it's a very inappropriate place to be at if you're holding public office. Look, privacy is one thing, but if this is the place where global leaders are shaping decisions that affect all of us, then we deserve transparency. Public officials, whether American or from anywhere in the world, should either avoid attending the Grove while in office or disclose their membership in the Bohemian Club before being elected. That way, the public could decide for themselves whether an allegiance to a private, secretive society is compatible with a commitment to serving the people. And the whole satanic ritual in the Redwoods narrative is a perfect red herring. It's flashy, it's viral, baseless claims that distract us from the real issue hiding in plain sight. Elite networks operating beyond public accountability. And it's not just a problem with Bohemian Grove, it's global, and one we need to start talking about more seriously.